IPMNation.com.
You're listening to All Natural Being with guest host Henry G. Noel. What's the G stand for? Giddy up on IPMNation.com. Here's Henry.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Tuesday. Thank you for joining us this evening as we hope to be broadcasting our first successful show from our transitional radio studio here in Cuenca, Ecuador. What a fun time that was last night, I have to admit. We are broadcasting the 338th episode. Well, we're trying to broadcast it again, of the number one rated show on IPMNation.com, All Natural Being with Brian Browdy. Now, it's pretty bloody obvious that I'm not Brian. My name is Henry G. Noel, the G standing for God Help Us All, and I am filling in for Brian as his guest host for All Natural Being, while Brian focuses on his upcoming challenge of, well, getting his head fixed. Well, wait a minute. That didn't really come out right. Well, actually, I think it would take a miracle to get Brian's head fixed, but set that aside. What? Oh, it's getting his cerebral spinal fluid balanced. Oh, okay. I got it. Ooh, sorry, Brian. No offense meant. In any case, thanks to our good friends at Wirecast, we are broadcasting as it happens and uplinked live all over the globe right here on IPMNation.com. Multicast live on Facebook, YouTube, over at allnaturalbeing.com, and on the new Brian app. With all of our rebroadcasts going out on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and all the other usual cast of characters. However you come to hang with us, we are always thrilled to have you here, live on our transitional radio uplink from Cuenca, Ecuador. Greetings wherever you are from, here in the Garden of the Mortals, or the other Garden of the Mortals, where your life is still your labyrinth, and you get to call all the shots. Why subjugate yourself to the whims of others? You were dealt a hand, so why not play it the way you see fit? Play it the way you want to. No one should have more control over your life than you. So why succumb to your critics? Why allow the beliefs of others to derail you from your all-natural being? Don't get caught up in all the BS that others try to feed you. Use your primal scream to stand firm, front and center, and don't place it on the back burner. That's why we're here. To be your friendly force, to place your heart's highest priority top of the list, reinstating the true wisdom and wallop of your inner whisper. To terminate the turbulence, to garnish the guilt, and to streamline your sensibility, all to out-brutal the brutal. Smear the fear and discover how to bring your own bold once and for all. But before we get into the thread this evening, I'd like to say hi to all of our friends in the United States, Canada, Mexico, the UK, and Ireland. Our good friends right here in Ecuador, China, the Philippines, Brazil, India, Australia, Germany and Italy, France and Nigeria, Turkey, Japan, Singapore, Thailand, Belgium, Sweden, Israel, South Africa, Egypt, Puerto Rico, Kenya, the Netherlands, Colombia, Peru, Greece, Poland, Cambodia, and New Zealand. For those of you joining us from all over the globe, welcome. It's great to have you here with us. And I am thrilled to be filling in for the man driving our bandwagon and being our virtual hitchhiker wherever our travels take us. But before we get into tonight's show, I first want to say, and I think I speak for everybody, a big hello to the man whose heart can't be measured by weight, but by volume, Mr. Brian Brody. You are the definition of hero, my man. And from all of us listeners, be strong, battle back, take care of yourself, get well, and get your butt back here as soon as possible because I'm drowning in these shoes. Now, for tonight's show, I'd like to talk about control. Control not just by others, but why it is that we are so willing to give up control of ourselves to anyone willing to take it. Why do we do that? You know, we've been taught to look up to authority figures and envy celebrities and follow religious leaders without any question. But my question to you is, why? Why are we so willing to give up controlling our own lives and give it to those who know nothing about us at all? So now, let's get into the thread and say hello to everybody. This will be a great chance for me to look down and start doing this. So I apologize. I'll have to look down for a bit. So Candace, welcome. Thank you. Wayne, thank you. David, Ray Bowman, wow, welcome. Joseph Haggerty, thank you. Heather, welcome tonight. Marcellus, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. Let's see. Rita, thank you. Let's see. Alice, Lindsay, thank you so much. Let's see. Candace, thank you. Did we freeze again? Or is it just sort of a temporary thing? I've had enough technical difficulties to send to IBM. Joseph, yes, the fear of saying no and being different. I have to agree. Sometimes it is. It's much easier to just fit in and not rock the boat. Susan, welcome. Welcome to the thread. Thank you for joining us this evening. Appreciate it. We're talking about control and why it is we so willingly give it up. And that's pretty much a topic I would love to try to get through. We are an amazing species, creative, intuitive. We are spiritual and hypercritical. We run the gamut of perceptions. And yet we are so willing to give up the control of our own life to just about anybody that walks by. And Heather, thank you. Hey, welcome. And yes, it's fear of rejection. We do want to fit in. We don't see ourselves as individuals, but yet we find ourselves really lonely, I think, in that individualistic parameter. You know, ego is extremely individual and really wants us separated as much as we possibly can. And the problem is we do that. We actually fall in and follow those lines. I was hoping that things would change as I got older and realized that you can't really live that kind of a life, that you really do have to, you're part of a collective, you're part of the whole, we're all part of this human race. And it would be really interesting to see how everything else goes if we simply do. I'm playing around with some technology stuff here. I'm trying to see if this will help with the message going out, with the audio. So anyway, yes. Why is it that we give up control? I know in my own life, yes, it was part of was fitting in. I didn't want to be outside the parameters of what was accepted, what the norm was. As I got older, I realized there is no norm. I realized that what we usually blame on human nature is really not human nature at all. There is no human nature. Human nature is usually defined as something common or a circumstance to which every human would react the same way. And I'm finding it very difficult to find anything that every human would actually react the same way. So we end up out there floundering and trying to find acceptance and trying to decide and define ourselves. But again, control, going out to someone else. I mean, I looked at last night as a perfect example of this this lack of control on technology. And that it was fine. I mean, we had an issue, we dealt with it. Yeah, my reaction, I could have gotten extremely angry. I could have been really pissed off about it. But I realized, no, that's not the way it really is. It's just something out of our hands. I can't control everything. So once you give up control, I find is when you gain control. You gain control of yourselves. And I think that is probably the biggest issue that we all face when we are seeking so much control. We must give it up if we want to gain control of ourselves. And hi, Joseph. And yeah, I'm trying to read some lines here too, so I apologize because I'm not as fluid as this as Brian is. So kind of hang in there if you can. It's the glitches can be fun, and it has been. Hi, John. Good evening. Welcome. And right, I think you're right, Joseph. I think faith does conquer your fears. And I think and faith in a lot of things. It doesn't have to just necessarily be a religious faith. It's just simply having faith. Faith, one, in yourself. That's the primary thing. We talk about, bringing on your bold, and that is having faith in yourself. It's trusting yourself and enjoying your decisions you've made for yourself, not regretting, and not living in the world of guilt. So giving up control, gain control. It does work. It's very interesting how that really does work. But in order to really understand it, you have to practice it. It's something that we really have to try to do. So what are some of the things that you feel would be a great way to learn how to give up control? That maybe that's a good direction to try to go. If I were to walk up to you and on the street, well, probably get hit, but to say, if you give up control, you can gain control. It sounds sort of backwards. It sounds like it doesn't really make sense. But actually having control, to actually have control of your own life. And to do that, we really do. We have to give up control, because the other controls that we allow everybody else to have, we end up reacting to that. Hi, Marcia. How are you? Good evening. Yes, faith in ourselves is the key. It really is. I have to agree with you. Matt Connerton, welcome. How are you this evening? Thank you for joining. We're talking about control and the best way to gain and regain control of ourselves as we go through this life of ours that can be so messed up and so screwed up, and the world out there being absolutely crazy. But we are one species. We are of the human race, and we have so many man-made barriers that separate us out. I mean, borders for one. I mean, just having borders. We are separated into different countries and different nationalities at that point. Of course, different languages. We have different religions. We have thousands of ways that we have been whittled down from the human race of billions down to individual groups of people. And it's not until we can look past all of that, I believe, where we really begin to take control of ourselves and stop reacting, because that is what gets us into so much trouble. That's why the world is in the situation it is, reaction. And there are times for reactions, for whatever the reaction may be. But if you give yourself a standing 3 count to see what is the most beneficial thing for us to do at the time, we find sometimes simply not reacting is the best way to go and maintains our control. We maintain control. The minute we react, we give up control, and someone else is now controlling us. Learn to ride the wave. Got to go with the flow. I absolutely agree with you, John. That's the way it is. Living in the now. I think that is perfect. I think looking through and seeing how we work things. Again, I'm trying to get comfortable with this, reading some of the thread and go through. Yep, you're right, Joseph. The world is not perfect, no matter what you hear or see on TV, etc. The world is not perfect, and that's because we're not perfect. The world really is only a reflection of us. So what we wish and want to happen, we have to live that. That's why we are responsible for all of that. To me, with the world being not perfect and being a reflection of us, we can't expect it to be perfect because we are far from it. And I think as we change, as we adopt and adapt, and as we give up the hate and the discrimination, the fears, and gain control of our own lives, yes, I think the world will change. Yes, of course, it's a long battle. It's a long fight. But I firmly believe that if we change, if we stop the judgment, if we stop the things that cause others to react that way, and then it goes away. A lot of these issues that we face with the world is going to go away. You brought up a good point on how faith in ourselves and how our faith carries us and conquers the fears that we have. There's so much that we have to learn about the progression of fears and control, and how we relate and how we react to all of this. We are, as Rita says, we're a long way from the days of a handshake, that being a bond, and that's a sad thing. Trust has been part of this. So much that becomes part of all of this. And trust, again, has just become a word, like responsibility has just become a word. Nobody takes it serious anymore. And I think that's part of a sad circumstance for us. Again, we have been divided into smaller groups to where we are much more controllable. It's very hard to control 8 billion people, but we can control a handful of people within states or within organizations, and we can do that. And by limiting those that can join these little groups and setting up the discriminatory or the circumstances with which we exclude things, yes, it becomes hard to really unite and to join. And that's exactly what we need to do. We are all brothers and sisters in this world. Yeah, we have different last names, and we have different color skins, and we have different religions and different faiths. We have different political leaders and ideals. But the bottom line is we are all brothers and sisters. And we have got to start learning that and start functioning like that. I mean, I don't believe why we were placed here, was to fight and argue and kill our brothers and sisters. That's not the point. John, turn off the tell-lie vision. Yeah, you got it. I like it. Stop shopping at the big box stores. Grow and raise your own foods. Refuse government assistance. Be proactive. Again, John, yes, you're taking control of your own life. We have so many programs out there that continually give to the point to where generations later, it's now an expectation. This is the way we're going to live our life. And the responsibility has disappeared to be in control of our own lives. And it does start, yes, absolutely right, Joseph. It starts with the family. It starts with neighbors, and it extends out. It starts with yourself. And it expands out so quickly to everybody that we come in physical contact with, but also with those that are simply energetically connected. Mary, welcome, Mary. It's good to have you. Thank you for joining us. If we were to take a good look at ourselves in the mirror, would the report back be a positive one or a negative one, or a combination of those depending on the circumstances? I find looking in the mirror to be great therapy as far as shedding away, because the one thing you can't do is lie to yourself. That's one of the things I am finding out. It's really difficult. When you're lying. It's really simple. And so to live a life and to go through your life a lie, it's a very frustrating thing. And the only person you really have to face is the one that's in the mirror. And I'm finding that a lot of people can't do that. They really can't look themselves in the eye. I don't know if it's because of guilt or if it's because of fear of what they might find or see, or an admittance that they have to make that that they've normally buried. That it's a mask that they wear. I'm really not sure. Oh, hi, Karen. How are you? Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Yeah, people see you differently by your actions, and you're right, Joseph. That's really true. And I think that's one of the gauges of being a human is walk the talk, is being who you say you are. It's great to be able to talk about the titles. I'm a doctor, or I'm a lawyer, or I'm a politician. I'm a religious leader. But if you don't walk the talk that's expected from those people, then you're really not putting your best foot forward. And I find that to be a really hard thing to get people to try to understand. We look to follow paths and try to lay down guidelines as to how we are going to function and how we're going to proceed in our lives. Yet all of the experiences that we've had in this life, most of it, we've been directed by someone else. It's not even our path that we're walking. We're walking our father's path. They wanted us to be a doctor or a lawyer. Our mother's path that wanted us to get an education, or follow a certain religion. We walk a path that someone else laid out there for us. And it's not, again, until we take control of ourselves, look in that mirror and really be honest with ourselves as to what we see. Be proud of what we are. And learn to be proud of what we are, and not to fall victim to the dictates of what others say. It brings me into bullying and how hard it must be for kids nowadays in school when the insecurity of a bully takes it out on someone else, and it affects their entire life, including the bullies, of course. And it's senseless. It just seems to be senseless. And yes, I think there's parenting involved. I think there's a lot of the failure of the family unit. So many families are broken and hardly fixable anymore. And so it becomes extremely difficult to try to put a finger on any one thing that would actually allow us to gain control again. Marcia, thank you. Happiness is a choice, not a result. You're absolutely right. Nothing will make you happy until you choose to be happy. No person will make you happy unless you decide to be happy. Your happiness will not come to you. It can only come from you. So do not lose control of yourselves. I totally, absolutely agree. I'm preaching right here. This is beautiful. One of the things I know we've talked about, you've heard me mention it so many times, happiness. And I'm going to go back to just being born. When we were born innocent. We were born trusting, unconditionally loving. And then we grow up. And as we grow up, we are taught all of this other stuff. So we as infants are happy. We don't know anything else. We love. We don't know anything else. And then we start covering ourselves up with one shroud of unhappiness here, one shroud of threat here, one shroud of hatred here, one shroud of this. All of a sudden, we're miserable as we grow up. Well, the happiness didn't go away. The happiness is still there. It's just we have whitewashed it, painted it, we've covered it up, we've buried it so deep inside of us, we can't find it. And so where do we go? We start looking outside. Oh, I think it's that woman. She'll make me happy. Or that guy, he'll make me happy. And it doesn't happen. Yes, you're fulfilled for a little bit, then the newness wears off. The grass is greener, and off we go to someone else. Divorce rates high. Your breakups are hard because we didn't come to the table with a full plate. If we can do that, if we can come and be full, recognize the happiness, the completeness, the contentment that we have from our first beginnings, and peel away all of those shrouds, expose that happiness, and then we can come to the plate, come to the dinner table as a full plate, a full cup. And then what we have to do is we have to offer. Then we've got to give. And this "you complete me" is one of the most, I think, the most derailing, self-controlling comments that one can make. You complete me. Wow. That's a hard thing to really understand. And I know we've all heard it used as examples for many, many times. John, you said blaze out our paths, embrace the bold. Brian's been talking about this all along. It's always been within you. And yeah, you are beautiful and you are powerful. You are free. Exactly. And if we are free, why do we put the chains? Why do we put the shackles on ourselves to tie us back down? Why is it we handcuff ourselves and break away from our all natural being? Well, good evening, Mr. Raleigh. How are you, sir? Thank you for joining. I'm hoping we can have this. I'd love to be able. Hopefully, we'll talk to Wayne a little bit and get this squared away and get you on, so we have this program for you tomorrow night. I would love to have that. It would be great. Do a double rendezvous here. We are talking about control, and we're talking about all of the things that we do that give up our control, and all of the things that we do to justify giving up control. And because we give up control, we find ourselves very unhappy. We find ourselves miserable, feeling incomplete, always looking for completeness someplace else. We talk about, Brian and I hashed about ego all the time. And, and we blame ego for a lot of stuff. And I think it's just deservingly so. Ego has earned it. But the ego, think of it as an insatiable appetite. It can never be satisfied as far as stopping its wants and desires. And so we do everything that we can to placate ego. So when ego wants the new house, we go in debt to buy the new house. When ego wants the new car, we go into debt to buy the new car. We need a different or a better education, so we go into debt for the education. We live in a world of debt, and we've been told it's okay. I mean, this is the way, this is the norm. Well, it's really not the norm, and we have to start shaking that loose. I mean, I have no idea how many of you out there own your own homes outright or own your own cars outright, but it is an extremely difficult concept to get through, realizing that ego has controlled us. Ego has put us into debt. That's why we struggle so much. That's why we work 2 jobs. That's why both parents have to be out of the house. That's why we can't quite make ends meet. Good evening, Susan. How are you? Oh, wow. Welcome. I'm sure Brian is wanting to know how you are doing too. He's getting ready to partake in his endeavor to get re-regulated. So you guys are just 2 peas in a pod right there. Ego is a liar. It is a manipulator above all things else. It is a manipulator. And it drives us to be unhappy. It drives us to be incomplete. It drives us to be out of control. And that is part of the issue. And that's part of the reason for bringing the subject up. I mean, last night's experience with the technology, I got to admit, I don't know how Brian does it. I really don't. But it's, you learn a lot from it. You learn a lot about yourself when faced with adversity. And so when it happens, it just happens, and you go and see how things go. But for me, having experienced that yesterday on the very first time I'm coming out, I think it was a great experience. It actually really was. There was so much to learn from this. And I think that's part of regaining control again, is seeing things that are off and don't seem to be right. And it's so quick to blame it. Just point a finger at it and say, this made my whole day miserable. Well, it doesn't. We do. We always do that. Hi, Susan. We too often make our happiness contingent on certain conditions. You're absolutely right. I won't be happy unless. I can't be happy until. There are no schools in this dimension. These societies to teach us to find that within ourselves. Yes, you're absolutely right. And we are taught from the we're taught in that direction. You're absolutely right. We have got to put, I'd love to continue on there. We're taught from every direction that we are not enough. So finding our way out of that, yes, you're absolutely right. Something it can be difficult. One thing we can each commit to is to treat each other with more respect. Again, responsibility, respect, more kindness, and understanding and acceptance. As far as I can see, and to commit to raise each other up rather than tear each other down, so we can feel good about ourselves. And I have to agree with you. Yes, Joseph, it's setting goals. It's purposely putting yourself in a position of non-reaction, number one, and listening. I find I don't listen real well when I'm talking. It's really hard for me to do that. So in stressing my point or trying to prove that I'm right is a sign that I'm no longer listening. And that is one of the key things I think we all need to learn. When someone says something that we disagree with, let's just take a moment. Let's find out where their shoes are. How comfortable is it in their shoes? And find out. And I love to ask, when I am absolutely on the opposite side of the coin with somebody, first thing I would ask them, I said, well, you know what? I would love to understand that a little bit more. Could you please explain that to me? Boom. And now I can listen. So I don't have to defend my point of view. I don't have to beat them down. I don't have to put any fear into them. I don't have to judge them. I simply want to learn. And the more I learn, sometimes I find out I'm not quite as right as I thought, and I can understand why that opinion is there. So, we really do have to be a good gauge for ourselves. We have to become monitors, our own monitors, and really look at ourselves as major controlling entities in the lives of others. Whether you are a boss, for instance, that's one of the things, having been in manufacturing for a long period of my life, and being in upper management, being a vice president, owning my own company, you find that you really do learn when you get out amongst the masses. You really do start to listen. You really do start to pay attention. And I found that going in as a consultant to try to change cultures in companies, I found that the biggest hindrances in the changing of a culture in a company is the management. Middle management tends to not want to change and rock the boat. They're secure. They want to get out there 20 years and they want to retire. So they are very steadfast. Upper management sometimes has the ideas, but they don't have the connections and the communication with the workers because they have the middle management that they rely on, who doesn't want to see the change happen. So to go through, and even members of the board of directors that have to be removed from board of directors because they're a hindrance to the cultural change that someone wants. So, there's a lot of things that go into our lives and how we will control things if we are allowed to. But yes, there you go. Live by example. We have to be the example. We have to be it. Or be the way it is, or rather than be the example, we have to set an example. We have to be the ones that actually walk the talk. And I totally agree with you, Joseph. Thank you. And we all have our own, yes, we have our own tale to tell. Everybody has their reasons why they are the way they are. We just don't take the time to listen to it. We just as soon judge them as being off the wall, crazy. And in fact, they're not. They have a different story to tell. One of a great thing about the Native Americans was the culture of the Native Americans is understand, put yourself in their moccasin, walk in their shoes, understand what the life was about. And we don't do that. We are quick to judge, we are quick to criticize, and we are quick to point out give our own point of view. So it is really hard to try to come back and do that. Rita says, but you have to You have to be to accept what the other person says, whether you agree or not, and not judge them. Exactly. That's absolutely true. It really is. Candace, I have a question. When babies are born, they know when they're hungry or feeling bad or wet. But don't parents give love, comfort, and secure feeling? So if you are having a crappy parents, how would that baby have those feelings? Just curious. You know, that yeah, and I have to agree. When a baby, they can get uncomfortable and they're hungry, and you're right. And I think depending on the reaction of the parents and what they are showing that infant is what that infant will then pull in as its intrinsic values. If every time it's hungry, a parent ignores it, or it's wet and it's just left to sit in that diaper, or the parent doesn't talk to the child, it has that as a reflection. But initially, I mean, a baby just simply doesn't know what it's like to hate. It just knows that it's relying on someone to take care of it. And if it is taken care of, it probably will, it has a better chance to grow up very much in tune with itself. And it honestly goes all the way back, even while it's in the womb. When you look at an infant in its being formed as a fetus, the music that's played in the background, the stress that the mother is under, the stress that the father puts the mother under, the whether there's physical violence, whether there's good nutrition, whether there's whether it's a loving household, and of course the parents. How were the parents raised? It keeps going back and back, and all of that is what comes through and makes us who we are. None of what a child has to go through needs to be negative. None of it. You can give a very nurturing household for the child, but it's up to the parent. It's up to the guardian. It's up to the person taking care of that infant to do that. But understand all of the pre-birth stuff that goes into creating that child also. Let's see. Yeah, Joseph, you're absolutely right. Instant gratification. That's one of the things we do. That's what ego wants, instant gratification. Karen, thank you. Parents are their children's first teacher. Absolutely. And that teaching never stops. That's the key. People don't realize just because you take your kid and drop your child off at school doesn't mean you've given up the teaching of that child. You are teaching it. That's exactly what you're doing. You're teaching it. You're teaching it that you want separation, that you don't want it around. You're teaching it all of the negative stuff. When a parent doesn't participate in a school, it doesn't go to parent-teacher conferences, when it doesn't ask how the grades are going or how the exams go, or you have homework, sit down and help with the homework. The child's getting that message. The parent is teaching it. It may not be the best thing to be teaching, but it's being taught. And that is really part of the problem. It's relying on love, yes. And you have to have it in you to know what it's all about. Thank you, Joseph. That's absolutely right. A parent has to be responsible, totally responsible. I mean, a parent is, as Karen had said, is the child's first teacher. It's lifelong teacher. As I said, we learn from our parents. We learn how our path is going to develop initially as our parents have taught us. Just wondering about what has been said that babies are born with. I'm sorry, I misread that. I'm just wondering about what has been said that babies are born with. I guess I don't quite get that one, Candace. Could you please just clarify a little bit? So I can get a better understanding of that one. We are, we see our parents, we see our teachers, we see adults, authority figures. They all are. Parents are authority figures. Unless they're trying to be friends with their kids, they are authority figures. And so that is part of the big issue that we have here, is that we tend to not really go through, Mary, are babies born selfish or innocent? Ooh, very, very good question, Mary. That's a good one. because a baby doesn't have the developed emotion, a level. It knows to cry when it's uncomfortable. It knows when it's uncomfortable. It smiles. It shows its weakness, its fragileness. It shows that its need to be taken care of. And I'm not sure if a baby is born selfish. I think it becomes trained in them. I mean, for example, as a toddler, this is my toy. I'm taking my toy. I think it becomes teachable. One of the things that when a baby is born, they aren't born with these things already. No, I don't believe they are. I believe most of the things are taught. I mean, you look at training a puppy. A dog is, say you don't want the dog to bark. So the dog barks and you call the dog over and you stroke it and you give it a lot of love and you just reinforced that dog barking. When it whines for stuff, you go over, oh, what's the matter? And you pet the puppy. Well, you've just reinforced the whining. So I think babies they get these things reinforced in them. They do something, and depending on how we react to it, is how the baby then defines it for itself. And let's say, for example, I mean, there's also common things within the brain that the brain doesn't understand. So, for example, as a child sitting at the table, don't spill the milk. Well, the brain didn't hear don't. It doesn't understand don't. It just understands spill the milk. And that's what a kid does. And then what do? Then we punish the child for spilling its milk. These are the things that reinforce actions within a child. So when a child grabs a toy from somebody else, from another child, and we do nothing about that, or we go in and we start yelling at the child, rather than having the child give the toy back. That's the reaction. We react to a circumstance that's out there. That's how people get control of us. We do that. We react, always react. And that's what we have to stop doing. We simply have to stop doing that. We have to become better teachers, whether it's defined in as parents or not. We have to become better teachers. We have to understand the things that we do, how we react, and how it does affect someone else's life. It is. That's when it all begins. Mary, he goes, have 6 babies, and I believe we are all born selfish. All of our lives, we can work against this baby ego. I believe I have found what the answer is. I found through my faith in God, God frees me to be strong in focusing outside of yourself. I'm not going to sit here and disagree with you at all, Mary. Not at all, because I find total solace in what you have to say. That is absolutely true. And yes, yep, there you go. I know between Rita and I, we have 6 children, 6 grandchildren. Yes, they are all different. All the kids are different. And that's part of the genetics. They are all different. And they all require different things. It's when we try to treat them all the same is where we fail, because they're all different. And some require more attention than others. Some don't. Some are very happy to be by themselves. Some want to be part of the group. And so, yes, it is really, really a difficult thing to understand the psyche behind everything that goes on. It's just understanding that where the issues begin, they begin with us. We are the ones that start all of this. Let's see, John, I don't know if I missed somebody up here. Yeah, both and neither. Babies are pure beings. Yep, they can be conditioned to become selfish or innocent. And yes, and I think part of the nature of the child, or the genetics of the child, and its personality, I believe that plays into some of it. But absolutely right. I think there's a tremendous amount of reinforcing that we do as adults. Babies who are given basic needs but no stimulation, i.e., picked up and calmed, then thrive on physical touch. When babies are neglected, they are not responsive. Thank you, Rita. That's the other thing. It's understanding. Babies cry because that's their way of communication, and when they cry, it's understanding and discerning what that cry means. And I know moms can do that so well. I mean, they know this is the I'm wet cry, and this is the I'm hungry cry, and this one's the overtired cry, and this one I just want to cry, and so we have so many different ways that we can influence the growth of the child, and that influencing of the growth of the child as they grow into an adult, this is where they go. So actually, I was not even planned on trying to put a break in here, so I never even talked to that about Wayne. So I think I'm just going to continue to go through here, and we'll finish up here. We have about 15 minutes to go. Any other questions that you may have to go through this? Again, trying to deal with the idea of control and how we have given it up and how we control others and how we don't even recognize the fact that we're doing this, and how we do condition people, condition children, condition coworkers, how we can manipulate and do the things that we just need to stop doing. We just need to learn and understand that we do these things and start to break it all down and start stopping this, because it's from this type of actions and reactions that we have created the world that we live in. I mean, I listen to I don't listen to news. I do read news on occasion, just to get a feel for what's going on. But the redundancy in it is just absolutely ridiculous. It seems like the names change, the places change, but the same stories keep coming out. What I'm finding is you really have to step back. We deal with everyone that one of the biggest issues I have is titles, that people have titles, and they think that these titles give them control or give them the ability to go ahead and jump and criticize, and I'll look in the United States and see, Republican or Democrat, and to me it has become so ludicrous. It doesn't matter. I mean, it really doesn't matter if you can't communicate with other people, regardless of your point of view. We lose. Everyone loses. And you're not a Democrat and you're not a Republican. You may believe in these ideas, but you're not. You are a human being. And we, again, use these things to separate us, to give control to someone else. And it stymies me to listen to best friends who are on opposite sides of the coin end up breaking up a friendship because of ideas, simply an idea. I mean, that's sad. I mean, it's just not the way we're designed. That's not the way we're supposed to be. Trying to prove a point, trying to, lambaste somebody because they simply are a different political party or because they're a different religion. We have so many issues that we have to deal with, that have just gone so far beyond where they needed to go. And I'm hoping that's through all of this, as we really start to push this, and Brian gets back and continues on this, and I can get the thinking re-envisioned going, and then Brian and I can get a show going together where we can really take at odds with each other. We don't agree with everything. Believe me, we don't. And Brian knows that, but he also knows I'm just not afraid to sit down and get in his face if I have to, as he's not afraid to get into mine. So we can agree at times to disagree on certain things. But the bottom line is that we have to give respect. We have to understand where we're going with all of this, that what is the point behind it all. Joseph says, the principles of faith, mine, the Bible, is an example for life, a rule book to say. And I won't argue with you on that at all, Joseph, at all. I have other writings that I would love for you to look into. and really take a solid look at things too, the way things are. My view on the Bible, the Torah, and the Quran is, why don't they say the same thing? If they were all written or words from a supreme being, why don't all three say the same thing? It's like he had to edit it or something to fit something else. It's like the books became more about religion than it became about the Spirit of God. So, yes, please check into with my website, at www.henrygnoel.com, and take a look at some of the writings, because it is a rule book, and they're all rule books, and that's the issue, is that they're all rule books, but they all have different rules in them, and it just doesn't make sense to me that it would come from the same person, from the same entity, would write 3 different books for 3 different religions when it's all about the Spirit. So, yeah, I have to go with that. I honestly can't understand how parents are approving and participating in these kids in bad behavior. It's I think part of it, Candace, is parents are trying to be their children's friends nowadays. I'm beginning to wonder how grown up the parents have become. I mean, have they really grown up? They're acting more like their children than their children. And I think part of that, again, trying to be friends, instead of being responsible for their education, for being responsible for being their teacher, for taking the lumps when you have to hurt their feelings. Or you have to punish them. You have to take their stuff away. We've swung way to the other side when it comes to the pendulum on parenting. It's now you hit your kid and you go before a judge, and I remember growing up as a kid. I mean, my brother Wayne, I love him to death, but I mean, he'd do something and get my dad mad, and my dad would punish all of us because I was the oldest, so I was supposed to be responsible for Wayne, and my brother George, and my brother John, and my sister, and it's really funny but that was it. I mean, we were responsible for each other. And when we weren't, we were, in no short terms, we were told we weren't. And we had to do that. Friends versus role model. Absolutely, Joseph. That's absolutely right. That's where we go. That's where parents are heading. They want to be friends instead of being the example, the walking and the talking. You're absolutely right. Mary, parents struggle with selfishness and ego. Yes, they do. We all do. None of us are perfect. We strive to do the best we can. Yes. And we deal with doing that based on what we've been taught. I mean, that is really what it is. We are only as good as what we've been taught. It's what we do once we realize that limitation, where we try to find the better answers, the better way to do things, to go outside what we have been taught. Or the way I like to put it, we have to unlearn the things we've learned and relearn the things we should have learned in the first place. John, the need for a new understanding about God and life is clear. Yes, it is. Absolutely. Teaching and preaching about our correctedness. Absolutely. That's it. Yes. It is that understanding. You're absolutely right. Thank you, Candace. I appreciate that. I really do. It is so difficult. This life is so short, and I'll try to wind it down here in the next couple of minutes. Life is so short, and we live it like a burden, and it should be fun. I don't think we were placed here to suffer. I firmly cannot believe that. I don't believe we were placed here to hate our brothers and sisters. I don't believe we were here to kill them. I don't believe we were here to fight amongst different human concepts of religion, where we're killing each other, invading countries. I don't believe this is what life was supposed to be like for us. Yes, I believe God interceded. Yes, I believe ego plays a tremendous role in that. And it's a very convoluted, a very mixed bag of things that goes into who and what we are, and why we are the way we are, and why it is so difficult to change and empty our gunny sack. I mean, I always likened it that we start off, we dragging this little bag with us, and every time we take a step, we pick up 5 pounds worth of garbage and we throw it in there as an experience. And then we take another step and throw more into the bag. And ultimately, by the time we've walked down the block, we're dragging this bag of stuff, emotional baggage that we had no business picking up in the first place. And then we get bitter and we blame and we point fingers and we disrespect and we hate and we go through all of this amazing stuff. But again, what do we have? About 4 minutes left to go, Wayne. We will see what we can pull with all of this. I really want to take a few minutes here just to say, Brian, if you're listening, I hope that you are you're doing your thing. I really am looking forward to hearing that you are on a fast track back. I appreciate you having me sit in for you. I thank you for the experience. It is really an experience, and I couldn't be happier to see you come back and do your thing. I don't want you back too soon. I want you to make sure you do heal and do the things that you need to do. Have them readjust everything that you need to do. And everybody, as soon as I hear from Brian how he's doing and what he's up to, I will let you know. I believe he's going to be going into the doctor's on Thursday morning, if my timing is correct. And so Thursday evening, maybe I will have some information. I will pass that on to you. Let's see. Yeah. Why do you get up in the morning? What do you live for? Absolutely. Boy, there you go. Amazing. And yes, you're right. People do forget history. That's why we relive it so much. That's why war is so popular. That's why we do everything that we keep doing. And now I understand schools want to take history even out of the classes, and they're changing history as it moves on. There's so many subjects and so many topics that we really need to get into and talk to. And I'm hoping that over this course of time while Brian's recouping, that we'll get a chance to cover some of those. And please don't hesitate. Send me an email if you have any topics that you would love to talk about. I'll be happy to research that and then entertain that. To me, I think that would be a great way to have this as a two-way street. I don't like preaching. This is not what I like to do. I like being able to have two-way conversations because I think that's how, one, I learn. Because I get to listen, I get to understand your points of view. And then we can share back and forth as to what goes on. So please, everything that we can do to make this a great relationship, I would really appreciate that. And again, don't hesitate. I'm quite approachable, and I actually do answer my emails. And if I don't, Rita reminds me very, very quickly. So please, hopefully we can continue this on, and we will get back with you tomorrow. Yeah, thank you, John. I love that. Yes, we all do. We love you, Brian. See you soon. Yes, not too soon. Need to definitely get to where he's well. I don't want him to have any more relapses. Thank you, Candace. Love you too, man. I love you too, sweetie. And be passionate. Be passionate. Enjoy. Take care of your life. Take control of your life. And stop giving it away to other people. And enjoy. Smile. Wherever you get a chance, smile. It changes everybody's life. Have a great evening, everybody. Thank you much.
IPMNation.com